Hello, Becky. It's lovely to have you with us again today.
Hello, hello. Good to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
So, this is an interesting subject we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be talking about seed cycling. Now, that is really new information for me. I've heard about it, but don't really know anything about it at all until we had our conversation the other week. And I thought, oh, that's really, really interesting. We need to talk about this because I can't be the only one that really doesn't understand seed cycling. So, it's over to you to really tell us all about it and how it works, and I'll ask you some questions along the way.
Okie dokie. Yes, certainly. By all means, do that. So how did I get involved in seed cycling, first of all? Well, I am training to become a naturopath. I'm currently trained in nutrition and herbalism, and our herbs are wondrous things to include in our daily life to help with balancing hormones. And I knew that our food could have an impact on our hormones as well. But it wasn't until I went down this naturopathic route I discovered seed cycling. And the inclusion of seeds in our daily diet is really, really important for loads of stuff. So, keeping down inflammation is one of the things that they're amazing at because they've got these lovely omegas in there. The omega 3 is quite hard to get in the plant kingdom, but it is anti inflammatory. And if we go and take the good stuff out of seeds and process it and apply temperature and all of those things, it turns it into seed oils, which aren't really that great for our health. They can be inflammatory rather than anti-inflammatory. So getting seeds in their raw and natural state is the best way that we can reduce inflammation, provide our body with these essential omegas for like hydrating our skin, providing the fats that we need for the health of our brain, for lowering our cholesterol, for looking after our blood pressure. They do tons and tons of different jobs in our body to help with our general health. They also happen to be an amazing source of protein, and they've given us great amounts of fiber. So they keep us nice and regular, and keeping our toxicity down is really, really important. So anything that's got loads of fiber that will help swish out the toxins to making sure that we're
Yeah.
going regularly is really, really helpful for that. They provide us with minerals, vitamins, all sorts of things in there to just promote great health.
Yeah.
And they're a good source of calories. So anybody on quite a restrictive diet for whatever reason, including seeds, means that they're getting good, healthy calories. But the good things about seeds and nuts are that because it can be quite hard to chew them, we only absorb a fraction of the calories if we're having the whole seeds themselves.
Yeah.
So, if somebody's looking to reduce their weight but still get all the good fats and nutrients that we need, seeds are a great way of doing it. But for those people, we tend to have whole seeds. When we are treating things like hormones, what we
So that
want.
was my question I was going to ask you, because
Yeah.
some seeds are known for affecting the hormones, aren't they?
Absolutely, they are. Absolutely. So, if we want to tackle hormones, what we want to do is really absorb all of those key nutrients from in there. And the best way to do that is to grind them. So, grinding them fresh is the best thing that we can do. But most people haven't got the time or
Mm.
inclination or energy to be
Yeah.
doing every single
So, the
day.
question on that, grinding them, it's just something
Yeah.
with linseed. If you grind it after so many days, it loses its goodness, but also it can become rancid, can't it?
Exactly, exactly.
So, is it
If you're
important that it's done every day?
if you are going to the effort of doing that, then
Mm.
I would recommend that you have it fresh. And you can keep
Um,
it for a few days sealed in the fridge to stop it going rancid. But I would go for a slightly different form if you are planning on keeping it. So the pre-ground stuff that you can buy from whatever brands, Linwood's is a popular one over here. Um, Keep it cool, keep it in a dark place, but it doesn't need to be kept refrigerated as long as it's sealed and it
right.
stays cool. It doesn't seem
Okay.
to go rancid for about a month or so.
Okay.
Um, like many things, we've talked about making smoothies in advance and things
Yeah.
like that. Nutrients do deplete over time if they aren't
Yeah.
in optimal if they aren't being kept in optimal conditions. So you will find that it's not as great for you at the end of the month as it would have been when it was freshly ground
Yeah.
and open. So that's something to bear in mind. The optimum would be grab your own fresh seeds, grind them every single day. The next best thing is buying them pre-ground and having them within a reasonable time frame, because rancid fat, like with the seed oils, they're not going to do you any good. They could potentially do you some harm. So we don't want to raise that inflammation. So the seed cycling, then, not only are we getting all of these amazing seeds every day, but we're also getting the things that are in tune with our female cycle. So when ladies are going through their menstrual years, having seeds in this cyclic kind of way of taking them means that they can balance their hormones, prevent PMS. It can potentially help with things like PCOS and other kind of inflammatory conditions, and potentially help with endometriosis and any kind of cramp and pain conditions associated with heavy periods. Potentially it can lighten the periods as well. So it helps in a gentle way. So all of these things that I mentioned, seed cycling can't really be used to totally cure any of them, but it may help with alleviating some of those symptoms. And I would usually use it in conjunction with herbal treatments. So what we do with herbs is we power up the benefits of seed cycling. So we can save that conversation for another day.
Yeah.
But seed cycling involves having our flax seeds and our pumpkin seeds for the first 2 weeks of our cycle. So that's from day 1 to about day 14 of our cycle. And if we are regularly cycling, then it's quite easy to know when day 1 is. I would recommend to every woman to keep track of their cycle so they know roughly whereabouts they are. So whether they're in that kind of ovulation stage or whether they're coming up to having their period. Not only is it really handy just to know what's happening when, but it enables us to treat our body in the way that it needs to be treated at those times in our cycle. So by having a tablespoonful of flaxseed and a tablespoonful of pumpkin seeds each day, it's giving our body the vitamin E, the zinc, the lignans, and these powerful things that can help with modulating our estrogen levels. And so those first days, if we're high on estrogen, what we find is that flaxseed lignans can reduce our estrogen because they take the same receptor sites and they take up those receptor sites. So the really strongly estradiol, kind of estrogenic estradiol that our body makes, and other kind of estrogenic compounds coming in from our skincare and food and wherever else, it can help with modulating those so they stay in balance. If we're low estrogen, so if we've come through menopause and we're not making it anymore with our ovaries, or if we've had surgical menopause or that kind of thing, having flaxseed will bring us back up to that level and help maintain it. And so it's really important for looking after estrogen. When we get to the second half of our cycle, so day 14 to day 28, we can then start, instead of those, having sesame seeds and sunflower seeds. So again, a tablespoon of each one, ideally ground up if you can do, and they help us with our progesterone balance. So again, only a mild action. If you need something stronger than that, support it with herbs, and obviously an anti-inflammatory diet alongside this is really going to be helpful as well. But those two help us with getting rid of excess estrogen. So when we have had a build-up of estrogen in our system, what we need to do is we have this thing within our liver and then our digestive system of grabbing hold of estrogen breakdown products and then pulling them literally out the system, because we don't want to be high estrogen. It's inflammatory, it's a growth kind of compound, it helps tissue to grow. And if we have too much estrogen present too much of the time, that's not great for us, because we tend to grow things like associated with cancer and polyps and inflammation and all of that kind of stuff. So we want to be able to grab those breakdown products and get rid of it so that we're not constantly recycle it in the body. Instead, we're making fresh, new, healthy estrogen with the help of these seeds every single cycle.
Okay,
And
so question there before you go on. What
yeah,
does somebody do who's then menopausal
yeah.
and doesn't know when their cycle is? How
Um,
would you work that out?
well, I will quickly tell you about this progesterone part
Yep.
of the
Sorry,
cycle.
carry on.
All right, and I'll tell you the benefits of why we kind of do that, and then yes, I will tell you about cycling to the moon. So progesterone is our buffer for estrogen. If we don't have enough progesterone because our cortisol levels are too high, so if
Yeah.
we're in a state of chronic stress, the progesterone is made of the same building blocks as cortisol. So we've got that going on. We can't manufacture enough progesterone. And cortisol also blocks these receptor sites for progesterone. So we then, even if we're making it, we can't use it and absorb it and take it to do this kind of messaging and signaling pathway that it does. So progesterone buffers estrogen. So if we are going through menopause and we're having these spikes of estrogen, low, high, low, getting all the hot sweats and everything that comes with it, progesterone can buffer that. So we can sleep better, so that we can relax more. It does the opposite of estrogen and just calms everything down. And we all need a bit more of that in our lives, don't we?
Oh, yes.
So that's why we take those. Now, if we don't know where we're at with our cycle because we're having either we're having anovulatory cycles and they're not predictable, so we're not ovulating at this time, so things aren't working as they should do, maybe I don't know, anorexia, exercising too much. So there are lots of things that can impact
Yes.
our periods. But if we are going through that hormonal phase and our periods are gradually just going, and we don't know when they're supposed to be happening, we cycle to the moon. So the moon has a 28-day cycle. And typically, as women, many of us will find that we actually cycle with the moon naturally, but there are loads and loads of other factors that can influence that. So getting back in sync with the moon is amazing in so many ways. It's our natural way of being. And when we are at that tiny crescent moon, so the first day of our new moon, we class that as our day one. And then halfway around the cycle, when we get to full moon, so the waxing of the moon, when that is growing and growing and growing, we want to be doing the first 14 days of our cycle. So our flaxseed and our pumpkin seed. When the moon is shrinking again and going back to the tiny crescent moon, that the waning of the moon is the second half of our cycle, which is our sesame seeds and sunflower seeds.
So that's a really great way of helping you find out if you've got no idea. That's a great way to do it, isn't it?
Good place to start.
Interesting. So thinking on that, then, so we've got all these steps that easy tips, really, that wasn't it, of how to work it out. How would you then implement all of that information about seed cycling into your daily life?
Sorry, that's the printer going off in the background. It's fitting those in a way that is convenient and tasty for you. Because if it's not convenient, we won't do it. If it's not tasty, we're probably not going to do it either. Some of us brave souls will just have these things because they're good for us.
Yeah.
Seeds are delicious. And so we might as well really, really enjoy them. So I tend to include them in porridge. I tend to put them in smoothies. And if you've got a NutriBullet or a liquidizer that's with a really high speed blade, so a nutrient extractor, what you'll find is you don't need to grind the seeds beforehand because that will do the same job for you. So you can just bung those seeds in whole if you're making a smoothie and it will do that great job. I also put them on salads. So they work great to have ground seeds on salad. It gives you that fibre, that feeling of fullness. That's the satiety that we're always looking for. And soups, they work brilliantly in soups as well. Now, some things are denatured by heat, so we wouldn't recommend putting them in hot food like porridge and soup and stews and things like that. But seeds are great, no problem at all. So you can literally sneak them in for the whole family into casseroles, stews, whatever you are having. Of course, you can have ground seed, you can have whole seeds as well as ground seeds, and that allows you to make things more beautiful. So whole seeds sprinkled on
Yeah.
salads and whatever, rice and things like that, couscous and stuff that you're having, and it makes for a delicious kind of crunch texture, really fulfilling, and it looks beautiful as well.
That's excellent. Well, thank you ever so much for sharing that with us today, Becky. That was been really interesting. And I think next time, just something you said, powering up with herbs, I think has to be a subject for the next one.
Powering up with herbs, love it. Look forward.
Lovely. Thanks for joining us today, Becky. And we will carry our conversation on later and speak to you again soon. Take
Thanks
care.
so much. Bye.
Bye.